So the last film I'm going to review was one I watched last night in theaters. It was a documentary I was looking forward to. I really liked the trailer, and it was from a fashion illustrator that I had studied when I was briefly in fashion school like a decade ago. Antonio Lopez, 1970, sex, fashion, and disco. I have so many issues with this movie. It's not a well-made documentary. It was unfortunate how like just confusing it got. And the all the best the trailer was pretty much the first 2 minutes of the movie. So that was unfortunate. There's fashion and there's sex. There's not much disco. It's like pre-disco. It's like 60s and early 70s. And I don't know why it was called 1970. They never were actually in 1970. So that was confusing. There was some real big issues with the way the timeline of it. It never was cohesive. It didn't follow a timeline, but it also didn't tell a cohesive story, not linearly. It just was sort of all over the place. I went on some tangents that made no sense in terms of the what maybe was supposed to be the point of the documentary. Um, it felt like they had too much material and they didn't have a a grasp on what story they wanted to tell. And so it wound up, it was muddled, it was confusing. It's not very long, it's 95 minutes, and everyone that I was watching it with, we were all like, is it over yet? We were bored at times, confused, just it felt like 3 hours long. It really needed like a tighter story editor. I'm not really sure. I don't know what how it went wrong because the visuals were gorgeous, but honestly there was not enough of the illustrations. Um, there it just I don't know. And then there were all this photography, but it never explained, did he take the photos? Who took the photos? It didn't explain. But there was more photography of these models than there was of the actual drawing of the models. And so it was like, but who took the photos? That said, there were some good talking heads. So it included uh, artists Michael Chow, Pat Cleveland, Grace Coddington, Joan Juliet Buck, Patty Dobinville, Jane Forth, um, no, she wasn't there. Archival footage of Jerry Hall, Grace Jones, um, Karl Lagerfeld, young and buff and in a 1920s style swimsuit. So if you've ever wanted to see that, all of the photos are there. Really lovely new interview with Jessica Lange. Um, there was somebody. Where did they go? Jane Ford. There was another. Donna Jordan. Some of these really underground sort of model. Well, they weren't underground. They started underground and they became popular models in the 60s and 70s. And then lastly, I think must have been one of the last interviews with Bill Cunningham. He's sweet man, beautiful interviewee, just so enthusiastic and emotional and loving. And the film's actually dedicated to him. And I was like, oh, I wish this was a better movie. His stories were great though, and I'm glad that he was interviewed. Um, but if you want to see like a well-made fashion documentary about a behind-the-scenes kind of dude that maybe you don't know about, but you'll be like, wow, afterwards is Bill Cunningham, New York. That is a well-made documentary. This was just a mess, and I really wish I liked it, but I just really didn't. Um, so not a well-made documentary. This is Antonio Lopez, 1970, Sex, Fashion, and Disco, and I can't say that I recommend it. Look into Antonio Lopez's work though, because he really did change this industry and the way it uses illustration, and his work is so beautiful. Um, so look for that. Don't necessarily go out of your way trying to find this movie. Um, Not a well-made documentary.